It's time for Reason.
Do you believe that it's okay for the government to come in and make you sign all these permits and make you do all these regulations and jump through all these red hoops and have to pay for all these fines and pay for all these licenses and do all these things and then say that we live in a private, economic, free market, capitalist society to where you can actually set the prices for your product that's best for the consumer? Tell me how that makes sense in any way, shape, or form.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Then I get on my knees and pray. We don't get fooled again. Don't get fooled again.
That's what I'm talking about. Welcome into the Voice of Reason, broadcasting live out of the heart of the nation here in Wichita, Kansas. Right here on the Big Talker, 1480 on the AM side, 102.5 on the FM side, KQAM, simulcasting on KGPT TV, channel 2610. What up? Welcome in. It is a Monday morning, starting off a brand new day, a brand new week. Let's go ahead and have a little fun today. What do you say? We got to get you pumped up. We got to get you ready to go, get you excited for not only for today, but for the entire week, because we got a lot to get to, a lot of fun to talk about. It's politicking season, baby.
Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started.
That's what I'm talking about. 316-721-8255. 316-721-TALK. If you want to join into the program, I'd love to hear from you. What's on your mind today? Boy, a big weekend. Some big news. Tax receipts in Kansas. Unemployment rates nationally. Kind of big news, kind of big things happening. And then, of course, we had the gun rally that happened on Saturday. We'll talk a little bit about that as well. That was a great event. Appreciate the invite to be able to go out there and speak a little bit on the Second Amendment. Hopefully, you were able to make it out. It was a lot of fun. It was really warm. It was kind of windy, but nonetheless, it was a perfect opportunity for you to go and support the Second Amendment, support that rally, and support your right to be able to carry. It was really cool because you got out there and just about everybody, almost everybody there, had a open carry, had a handgun on their hip, had a holster with a handgun on there. It was really cool to see. It was probably the safest place in the entire city at that time. I'm just saying. I mean, I know that a lot of people may have gotten triggered with that. They may have gotten or felt really uncomfortable with that. And if so, then I guess it was a good thing maybe you didn't show up. But it was probably the most, probably the safest place that you could have been to in the entire town at that time. Which is really nice. Also, Riverfest up and going as well. We'll have more updates for you throughout the day here on the KQAM Airways for that as well. If you're able to go out, check it out. I know it was a big bash and a heck of a weekend to get everything started when it came to Riverfest. Lots to get to today, but your phone calls, I'd love to hear from you. 316-721-8255. 316-721-TALK. We do, by the way, have the Facebook Live feed up and rolling. I do very much appreciate it. If you go on there, facebook.com/1480 KQAM, like it, share it, leave a comment, ask a question. Let's get that going. Let's get the algorithm blown up when it comes to Facebook. Speaking of Facebook, let me bring it back up here. I'm kind of tired of talking about Facebook, so I didn't really want to, but now that we're on the topic, Drudge Report has kind of the main headline as of right now. Facebook data deals revealed deep access, contradicts testimony to Congress. Shocker? No. Is there anything that's really a big shocker out of that? The fact that there's deep access to data from Facebook when it comes to major corporations, when it comes to other companies, when it comes to advertisers, when it comes to the government, having deep access to the profiles, the data, and the information from the users of Facebook. Is there really a shocker there? No. I told you the only reason I really use Facebook anymore is for the show. I have some personal stuff on there every once in a while. It was actually really funny. We had some family and some friends back in Colorado that had seen last week on Friday, the June 1st, is actually the 4th birthday for our daughter, my wife and I. And I shared the picture that we had posted from 4 years ago when she was born, and, the baby picture, and we shared it on there and said, hey, happy 4th birthday. I can't believe it. Oh my gosh, I can't believe it's been 4 years, and yada, yada, yada. And a couple of people actually misinterpreted that and just saw the picture and thought that we just had another baby. No, we have not had another baby. It was actually just reposting from a post 4 years ago to say happy birthday to our little daughter. So I thought that was kind of funny. But that's other than that kind of stuff, I usually don't use Facebook a whole lot anymore. That's really about the extent of it, is political news, and then once in a while some family pictures and stuff. That's about it. Now, a lot of people don't even want to put the family pictures on there just because they're concerned about the data, concerned about the privacy of Facebook, which I totally understand. And I know that there's other alternatives, and we've talked about those different alternatives, but there you go. If you're on Facebook, not only are they sharing your data, but they are blocking the conservative agenda when it comes to the algorithms. And for a local show like here in Wichita and for the state of Kansas, and we're trying to get the message out, this is our duty. Again, if we don't do it ourselves, it ain't going to get done. So go on there, like it, share it, leave a comment, ask a question. Let's get the conversation going when it comes to Facebook and when it comes to some of the conversations that we have on social media, or else maybe some that are desperate to try and find the conservative message for our state and what's actually happening, they may not be able to reach it. Welcome in. Lots to get to today. It was, as I mentioned, a great rally on Saturday when it came to the Second Amendment rally. I appreciate, again, very much the invite to get out there. It was great to see a lot of individuals, really great speakers. Had State Representative John Whitmer, had Kansas candidate for Secretary of State Keith Esau that was there, had a couple other candidates for some different positions, had Wink Hartman with the Kris Kobach campaign, along with Governor Jeff Coyler. He was actually there as well and spoke, so it was really cool to see, really great to hear some of these speakers and the people that did show up. I know it was really hot. Everybody was kind of sitting off into the shade off to the side there a little bit, but again, the safest place in the entire state. Now, we did have a quote-unquote protester-ish, and you know him, he calls into the show all the time and tries to, not necessarily protesting, but just there to shake things up a little bit. And did get an email there, Andy. Hi, I feel like I need to apologize for invading your safe space today. I've always enjoyed pushing the envelope of my safe space. As you saw, it seems to me as a path to enlightenment. Trust me, you did not invade my safe space. It was quite okay with you being there. I encouraged you to do so, and you were not in a safe space. I guess you could consider it a safe space, being the safest place in the entire town, with probably about 30 individuals with handguns on their hips right in one convenient location. You were probably very safe at that time. So welcome aboard, and glad you're able to actually show up. So that was a lot of fun. If you did go, I'd love to hear from you as well. 316-721-8255. Did you get to go? And if you didn't, what the heck, man, or gal, or whatever you self-identify with, what the heck? And with that, let's go to the phones. What do you say? 316-721-8255. Line number one. Good morning. What's your name?
Good morning, it's Deacon.
Deacon, what's happening, sir?
It's a beautiful day out here.
Hey, living the dream every day, right?
You know, I've been waiting 2 hours for your show to come on.
Yeah, man, I tell you what, I don't know how you get up that early. I woke up at 4 o'clock this morning, and I was like, you know what? I need a little pick-me-up today.
But, yeah, I was really looking forward to going to the rally. But my wife has hypothyroid disease and started having heart palpitations, which is part of the disease. So, yeah, I got locked down at the house taking care of her. But you know what? Nothing I'd rather do than take care of my wife, you know?
Hey, absolutely. You know, that's what it's all about right there. That comes first and foremost, is trying to take care of the family in that sense. So, it was a bummer you weren't able to make it out. Totally understand that. But I tell you, you missed it, the safest place in the entire city with about 30 individuals with a gun on their hip. It was kind of cool to see.
I saw some pictures, and I wanted to be there so bad. But the way you opened up the show today, you were talking. You said it's politicking time. Over here in Butler County, we have a representative who voted to give more money to the schools, who voted to keep the age to buy a gun at 21 instead of lowering it to 18 for citizens of Kansas, who wants to put a wait time on buying a firearm.
Sure.
She's a sweet lady, but Mary Martha Good is way too liberal on gun rights.
Well, come on, wouldn't you feel better if you were trying to purchase a firearm, or someone was trying to purchase a firearm and you had to wait an additional 3 days in order to get approved for that? I mean, come on, that would right there stop any type of bad guy from actually getting the gun, because they're impatient. They wouldn't want to wait 3 days, would they?
Because they can't go and steal a gun. And if you're like me and you already own one or two of them, you're not going to use one of the ones you already own
Sure.
You're just going to wait on the 3 to 5 days or 7 days, whatever it is they decide, whatever arbitrary number they pull out of their tail to say, well, that's long enough for someone who's crazy enough to just buy a gun to go kill somebody.
Sure.
No, if
yeah,
you
no.
make the decision you're going to kill somebody, we've got cars, we've got hammers, we've got our fists and our feet.
And bad guys always seem to always work on nothing but impulse. So if they have to wait an additional 3 days, then that will totally discourage them from ever doing anything bad because they never plan things out ahead of time, right?
Oh, no.
Yeah.
No going to, some guy in the hood and buying a drop gun or going out and stealing a gun because you plan on an armed robbery or you plan on, killing somebody.
Sure.
There's no planning there. It's just, I woke up today and I felt like killing somebody.
Never happens like that. Craziness, right? Absolutely crazy. Now, you're right. I mean, it is politicking season. It is election season. And these candidates that you don't feel properly represent you and that, as you mentioned, continue to want to fund education in that sense, want to raise some taxes, want to raise the spending, want to begin trying to ban or at least put in some more red tape when it comes to purchasing firearms. This is the time to where we start talking about that. We begin exposing that. And if they don't represent us, then it's time to make a change come November.
That's right. And you know how I told you about the local schools here throwing away a lot of school supplies at the end of the year?
Sure.
I didn't get a picture this year, but I saw a news article where another school district here in Kansas got busted because somebody took a picture of a dumpster full of school supplies.
They got in trouble for taking the picture of that.
No. Somebody took the picture and put it on social media, and it's going all over the place. It's like, why, do we have to give so much more money to the schools when they're just throwing stuff away that there's nothing wrong with? Somebody got a picture of it.
Sure. And for those that don't know, I mean, you do the trash cycle. So, I mean, you go around and pick up a lot of the trash, and you've seen that, as you mentioned before. You see that every single year at the end of the school year, unused packages of crayons or markers or white dry erase markers or something like that. You see unused packages of these things just thrown away, right?
Absolutely. Notebooks with one sheet that's been marked on, the rest of it's clean. Boxes of pens where, they're unopened or maybe one's gone out of it. There's thousands and thousands of dollars worth of school supplies that are going to the local landfill.
Unbelievable. It breaks my heart, but yet it doesn't really, shock us in any way, shape, or form because that's the way the bureaucrats are. We need to spend more money while we continue to waste more money as well. Deacon, I love it, my friend. Appreciate it very much. Have a great Monday. Let's kick off a brand new week. What do you say? Have a little fun with it. 316-721-8255. Let's take another phone call here. Line number 2. Good morning. What's your name?
This is Jim.
Good morning, Jim. How are you, sir?
Oh, I'm just fine. I recovered. The muscle cramp was gone from my leg.
Hey, there you go. That's a good day there.
And we enjoyed meeting you on Saturday there. It's too bad the media didn't publicize the event. We would have had a lot more than maybe 50 people there.
Well, I will say I give credit to KWCH for going out there and reporting on it. Now, I have not seen the story on how they actually did comment on it, but
it is online. I commented on a forum, and some people had seen it. They gave me a link. You can go to kwch.com, and they've got a link to videos, a link to the thing.
Oh, good. I'll have to take a look at that.
With me was severely cut short, but then you know how that goes.
Oh, sure. You know what
anyway,
I've noticed? They interview just about all the. I mean, I don't really care. I think it's kind of comical. They interviewed just about all the other speakers there, but I've noticed that every time that we go to a rally like this, the media totally runs away from me. They don't even get close to me or want to talk to me.
Well, they know who you are. You got your own microphone. And they don't want to give you another one.
That's true. I mean, I don't really care. I just find it comical.
The important thing about that meeting was that these candidates, and if you look online at Kobach's online comments over the last few days, these people. There are actually people who are really solidly behind not just the Second Amendment, but all our rights. You're talking about waiting periods. The waiting period kills people. There are numerous cases nationwide where somebody has been threatened, by a gang or maybe just a spouse or something, and they've gone and applied for a license to buy a gun or to carry a gun.
Sure.
and the license is not issued, you don't need that, blah, 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 or the license is issued the day after the person is murdered. The waiting periods are feel-good things because, as your other caller said, the gang members, these gangs that deal in drugs and stuff, they also deal in guns. There are people who rent guns for bank robberies, and that way the criminal who does the bank robbery doesn't get caught with a gun. That gun stays in circulation among the gangsters. If it's not found under a bush when the punk kids just toss the gun away under a bush, which is how little kids find guns and shoot themselves, which is why we started the Eddie Eagle program in the schools to tell kids, if you find a gun, don't touch it.
Don't touch it, yeah. And can you imagine that there are Republicans in our state legislature that even voted to try and not pass the Eddie Eagle program in the state to make it a state requirement I mean, Republicans who are supposedly pro-Second Amendment who support guns.
There are two kinds of Republicans. There are constitutional Republicans, and there are African. I think that there's a species that came from the continent of Africa called rhinos. They're Republican in name only. I had to be careful. I didn't want to make it sound like I was talking about people. I'm talking about politicians.
I love it. Jim, I appreciate the call very much, my friend. Great to meet you finally over the weekend as well at that rally. That was really cool. So I got to meet a lot of listeners out there and some new people that said, oh, hey, we liked your speech. We want to start listening to the show. Well, welcome aboard if you are listening. We love having you here. And if I did get to meet you out there finally, then it was really great to meet you there as well. Got to take a break, 23 minutes past the hour. Lots to get to. Speaking of guns, by the way, when we come back, I do want to touch on some news that's happening out of Shawnee County with the Shawnee parade that happened as well, that one of our candidates and current elected officials getting some heat from, which I find quite comical. We'll talk about that and more when we come back. Lots to get to today. It is a Monday. By the way, coming up at the 8 o'clock hour, the guest today, a really special guest. I'm really excited to have him on the program. He is my radio mentor who really got me going and got me into the industry. I ended up interning for him for about 6 months when I was going through the schooling. And a great friend of mine, haven't talked to him in a long time, Mike Rosen from 850 KOA, kind of the big kahuna that used to be out there. He's kind of semi-retired now. But Mike Rosen at 850 KOA in Denver, he's going to join us in the 8 o'clock hour. Really excited to talk to him about some of the current events that are going on right now. 24 minutes past the hour. It is a Monday morning, baby. Let's kick this off the right way. What do you say? This is The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
You're listening to The Voice of Reason on the Mid-America Network.
Governor Jeff Coyler, Lieutenant Governor candidate Wink Hartman, and Secretary of State candidate Craig McCullough were lined up to speak, and voters came out to show their support.
It's important to show up, to show support to the candidates, because they need to be supported to make them feel good.
Event organizers say gun rights shouldn't be a partisan issue because it is a constitutional right.
There it is. That was the report, at least a little 30-second blurb from KWCH and their reporting of it from the media. So we appreciate that, at least getting the word out there to at least say it happened. Usually they'd say, we don't know what kind of rally's going on. We don't know anything, but hey, you know what? It happened, so appreciate that very much. Lots more to get to. Bottom of the hour news coming up. Your phone calls as well. It is a Monday morning, starting you off the right way. This is the way that we wake up in the morning. Better than a cup of coffee, a shot of espresso, even an energy drink, baby. This is The Voice of Reason on a Monday. Stay here.
Andy never shies away from a fight.
Just you try it.
Oh, I'll try it.
Just you try it.
You'll feel it when I try it.
I'd like to see you have at it.
Would you now?
And now's your chance to jump in the ring.
Are you insane?
Give Andy a call at 316-721-8255. This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
That's what I'm talking about. Welcome back into the Voice of Reason, starting off your week the best way we know how to do so. By the way, speaking of, shout out to listener Scott on Facebook Live right now at the hospital, about ready to have a baby. Congratulations, listening online. You know what's really cool about that? That warms my heart. The first voices that baby's going to hear is mommy and daddy and the voice of reason. I love it. Let's make it. I mean, come on. What better way to start off a whole new life right there than the voice of reason? Oh, man, that's great. Congratulations, my friends. That's fantastic with that message there on Facebook Live. 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. If you want to join in, lots more to get to today. 36 minutes past the hour as you start off your morning. I got to laugh. This made national news. Can you believe this? This made national news. I saw it on foxnews.com. It's on The Hill. It's on Breitbart.com. It is all over the place, and I don't understand what the big deal is. I really don't understand what the big story is, as Shawnee, the city of Shawnee, has apologized and has now set rules in place after the parade that happened with Secretary of State Kris Kobach, as you know, running for governor, and he ran in the parade riding a Jeep that had the American flag plastered all over it, which was fantastic, and a replica of a mounted machine gun on the top of it, which I think is kind of cool. And if you've seen the pictures of it, it's fantastic. That's really awesome. But Shawnee, the city of Shawnee, has now come out and apologized for the fact that Secretary of State Kris Kobach has ridden this Jeep with a replica of a mounted machine gun on top of it, and how it triggered individuals and made them feel extremely uncomfortable. Now, they weren't standing behind it as if they were using it to point it somewhere or do something with it. It wasn't like that. It was only there to show the support of the Second Amendment. The city of Shawnee, Kansas, issued an apology Saturday after GOP gubernatorial candidate Kris Kobach appeared next to a large replica of a gun during the parade through town. Now, Deniji Herbert, the media liaison, we've had her on the show many a time before, also with the Sentinel, also Gidget Southway, as you know, confirmed that it was a replica of a firearm. But the city came out. Again, we apologize and understand the concern this caused. Please know that the safety of our residents is always our highest priority, and we apologize if this made anyone feel unsafe or unsettled. We will be taking steps in the future to try to ensure something similar does not happen again. What are you talking about? What doesn't happen again? Did anything happen? Was there a shooting? Was there, what happened? What honestly, truly happened that made people feel really, really uncomfortable? It was the replica of a firearm. Even so, even if it was a real firearm, it was a firearm on top of a Jeep that was going to a parade. Are you kidding me? This is apparently really big news. This is apparently the breaking news of the day as people panic and freak out because they rode through a parade like that. Is that in bad taste? That's the question I have for you. Is that in bad taste, or are these snowflakes, let's go ahead and call them what they are, snowflakes, concerned about the fact that they feel really, really triggered? Now, there are law enforcement officers throughout the entire parade making sure everything's going safely, right? They all carry firearms. I'm sure that there was some form of military there, National Guard, something that was going through the parade as well. Probably had some firearms in some way, shape, or form there. We live in a state that has constitutional carry, so probably many of the members of the spectating crowd carried some form of firearm throughout the parade there as well. Did people feel very triggered and very uncomfortable in that sense as well? No, they didn't say a word about that in any way, shape, or form. Instead, they go after Kris Kobach because he's riding an American flag Jeep, which looks really, really cool, by the way, with a mounted gun on top of it as a replica in support of the Second Amendment. Now, for those that are concerned about, what are we going to do with the Second Amendment? How are we going to feel about the Second Amendment in the state with a new governor? I mean, if that doesn't show at least Kris Kobach's stance of where he stands on the Second Amendment, then I don't know what else would. By saying, you know what? We're going to ride an American flag Jeep with a mounted gun right on the back of a baby and ride right through the downtown parade. I'm just saying, if that offends you, then you probably need to move somewhere like California. Then you probably need to move outside of a state to where we have constitutional carry. You probably need to move outside of a state where we have carry on campus. You probably need to move out of a state that's trying to advocate for laws like the Second Amendment Protection Act and at least some form of legislation to where we actually defend the right to carry your firearm in the state of Kansas. The old Shawnee Days parade with the belief that replica machine gun on a Jeep wrapped in the American flag decal. That happened over the weekend. The tweet from Kris Kobach, the outrage over the replica gun on the back of a patriotic Jeep is the left trying to attack guns and your Second Amendment rights. I will not back down in the face of a snowflake meltdown and outrage culture. I mean, that's really what it is. Would you feel if you were sitting there and just watching a parade go by and you're watching the law enforcement go by and you're watching maybe, if you remember, what was it, a few weeks ago here in Kansas, or here in Wichita, actually, in downtown, they had the law enforcement appreciation parade that just happened. And if you remember, if you were actually there, I got to actually host it, help host with the TV side of it for KGPT TV. And we were there and we watched the parade go by. And if you remember, they had the SWAT team there. They had the artillery that was there, the big truck. They had the really cool stuff, the really big equipment that law enforcement has in the area for whatever may come up. I'm sure that there were plenty of firearms in that parade. Did we hear anybody get triggered from that? Show of hands. Anybody get triggered? I didn't. I don't know anybody else that did. In fact, there were a lot of people that actually there supporting law enforcement in that parade. And shocker, no one was triggered because they may have been going around with a firearm on their hip or in their vehicles, maybe even bigger firearms than just a handgun that was on their hip. No one was triggered. Someone goes down. If you're watching a parade and you see someone going down with a Jeep covered in the American flag with a big old mounted gun on the back of it, a replica, mind you, as a candidate sitting there waving to everybody, would you feel triggered, or would you say, okay, that's the position this candidate's taking, whether you agree or disagree with it? I'm sure as a parade there were Republicans there and there were Democrats there. As you're going through, whether you agree or disagree, instead of saying, I'm triggered, oh my gosh, instead of that approach and saying, I can't believe they did that, I'm going to complain to the city, I can't believe that they would actually allow this, this is completely offensive, I feel really triggered, I now have to go to my safe space, I need to eat a Tide Pod and go color in my adult coloring book and pet my therapy dog, I feel really, really, really uncomfortable. Instead of that approach, which is the normal approach to a progressive in today's times for whatever reason, you would just say, okay, I could be a progressive liberal Democrat, and you know what, I don't like that guy. I don't support that guy. I know his stance now, where he's the American flag waving, get her done kind of American with a big mounted gun on his back. I don't agree with it. I don't like it. I'm not going to vote for that person now because I saw what he does. I know exactly what his platform is, and I'm not going to support it. There, done, end of story. In a normal world, that would be the commonsensical response to something like this. In a normal world, when we used to disagree with somebody, when we didn't like somebody's stance, we would just say, okay, I know exactly where they stand and I won't support that person. Done, end of story. Instead, nowadays it's, I cannot believe they did this. That violated my feelings. It hurt my feelings really, really badly. Now I'm going to go complain and make sure this never happens again because I need to live my world in a nice little bubble in my safe space. Boy, how the times have changed, haven't they? What happened yesterday was clear that we probably need some set of guidelines. So moving forward, we have some set of rules to say this was what's okay and what's not, according to the communications manager for the city of Shawnee. So the response, the progressive response, oh, you know what? It happened. We don't like it now. So now we're just going to go and turn to the government like progressives, nice little progressives, pat them on the head, what they usually like to do. It felt really triggered. I felt really offended. Now I'm going to go to the city and complain, and the city feels like they need to respond, and now they need to set more rules in place. So guess what? We turn to the government. We increase government size. They're now going to pass some type of regulation or rule saying you're not allowed to do that. So that way the people don't feel triggered. So we can still have real guns there because, law enforcement's there and people with constitutional carry and all that sort of thing. They can be there, but a replica of a firearm as a sign of supporting the Second Amendment, that's not going to be allowed anymore because now government needs to enforce that as the big utopian power that they feel they need to be. It's really funny how the times have changed. Don't you think? 316-721-8255. Let's go to the phones at line number 1. Good morning. What's your name?
This is Jim.
Jim, what's going on, sir?
Oh, I got a comment on Kris Kobach's Jeep. I took it more as an honor for the Memorial Day celebration because our soldiers drove into combat in Jeeps with a machine gun mounted. And if he has a replica machine gun, I guess the city of Shawnee or the county can pass an ordinance. You can't have a replica machine gun on your Jeep. But we have firearms preemption in this state. I don't think they have the legal authority to ban a real machine gun. So I'm not a lawyer. I don't even play one on television or anything.
Well, they could certainly try to pass one. I mean, we've seen different cities throughout the country try and pass actually ban AR-15s or ban semi-automatic rifles. So if they really wanted to, they could pass it. But it is ironic to where, I mean, we do have constitutional carry in the state, which state trumps city law, unless they try and take it to court and try and push it any further if they do go down that road. But it's really hysterical and ironic that they feel so triggered that you can still have your constitutional handgun on your hip, but they need to ban a replica of a firearm in a parade because they feel more triggered.
It was a piece of scrap welded iron.
Well, sure, yeah. They feel more triggered with a replica of a firearm than they do with an actual real firearm. Jim, I appreciate it. We got to take a break here, but you're right. It's comical. It's absolutely comical because that's how triggered, that's how loony these individuals are. To where they feel triggered, they feel violated by actually having a replica of a firearm going through a parade to show their support of a Second Amendment issue in the state. And again, the big drastic change in times to where one side back in the day would say, okay, I don't like that person, or I like that person because of what they're doing, because of the stance they're taking, and that would be the end of it. Nowadays, you feel violated, you feel offended, you go to the city to complain, the city apologizes because it doesn't want to offend anybody, and now they're going to pass an ordinance to try and ban a replica of a firearm when it comes to a parade. Quite ironic, quite comical, and again, the snowflakes. I mean, I'm sorry that you felt triggered. Actually, I'm really not. 48 minutes past the hour. This is the Voice of Reason.
You're listening to the Voice of Reason on the Mid-America Network.
7 minutes to the top of the hour. Welcome back into the Voice of Reason, kicking off your Monday morning. That's what it's all about. Welcome in 316-721-8255, 316-721-TALK. Talking about the precious snowflakes that just feel really, really, really uncomfortable with just about anything in the world that offends them in some way, shape, or form. This is really the way that many of them actually act. Speaking of that, all our friends down in Oklahoma, by the way, that are listening to the program right now, you guys should be on a really you should feel really special right now. You really should.
Winning.
You should feel really good about yourselves because California has added you, state of Oklahoma, to their list of states that state-funded travel is now banned because they don't agree with the way you actually live your life in Oklahoma. Talking about the precious snowflake type mentality, it's really ironic that they call us fascists. They of course call us the big government, tyrannical Hitler type fascists as the conservatives, while they are the ones to say if you disagree with us, then you are the closed-minded, bigoted, racist, sexist, homophobe, yada 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 yada, and then you're a terrible, horrible person, and we will not associate with you. We will not be anywhere near you, and we don't like anything that you actually do. And so they act like Hitler while they call us Hitler. It's very funny to actually watch how this all plays out, and they just don't get it either. The light bulb doesn't click on. I know that they're not the brightest crayons in the box, but sometimes common sense will prevail, or at least we have to show that, and they just don't get it. They really don't. So they call us the terrible, horrible human beings, and the state of California now banning statewide travel to the state of Oklahoma after them doing really the same thing as what we've done here in the state of Kansas, which is allowing private religious-based foster care agencies or adoption agencies to decide who's going to actually get or not get a child through those agencies based on religious beliefs, which is Oklahoma just passing this the same way that we did here in the state of Kansas. And they say it's discriminatory to the LGBTQ community, if I can talk this morning, instead of being able to allow that community to be able to adopt a child or become foster parents or whatever they want to do. And saying that is now discriminatory. So the state of California, thinking that they're really changing the world and doing something for the better by banning state-funded travel to the state of Oklahoma, as they have done already here in the state of Kansas. I don't know what it's supposed to change. Does anybody know what the actual intent of that actually is, what it's supposed to accomplish, other than themselves feeling really good about themselves because they did something for a state? I mean, is it supposed to say... usually, when you do something like this, I mean, it's kind of like Trump ending a trade deal with some other kind of nation to where there's repercussions because of ending that travel or ending that type of relationship. There's repercussions to it. I don't know what the negative impact is by saying that you're not going to have state-funded travel to the state of Oklahoma, other than making it more of a pain in the butt when a sporting event or a sporting team from a state university in California wants to come to Kansas or wants to go to Oklahoma. I really don't know what it's supposed to accomplish other than themselves isolating themselves from any other state in the rest of the country where they feel very triggered and very uncomfortable going there, and how they don't support the state-funded travel to those areas. That's fine. I mean, I don't really care. Good. I don't want California coming to Kansas and infiltrating what Kansas has to offer. I don't want California coming in and infiltrating what Oklahoma has to offer. I don't really care. But usually when you do these things, there's usually some type of repercussion or negative impact to where the other partner in this that's actually getting the raw end of the deal comes back and says, wait a second, we don't like that you're doing that. Let's renegotiate and let's try and make it all happy and hunky-dory. That's not what's happening with California. They just say, nope, we're done. We're not going to spend state-funded travel to your state. I just don't know what it accomplishes or what it does other than making them feel good about themselves. They isolate themselves against it. Truly. They truly are creating their nice little safe space state to where any other state that offends them, they will not go to and they will not travel to. And I'm totally okay with that, but somehow that's supposed to impact us and make us feel really bad about it. Oklahoma joins Alabama, Kansas, Kentucky, Mississippi, North Carolina, South Dakota, Tennessee, and Texas on the list of states where California public employees cannot travel for work-related purposes unless they are required by a court to investigate a crime, investigate a tax dispute, or comply with a grant. It's funny. I love it. The snowflakes are precious, aren't they? Oh, it makes you feel so wonderful. Wrapping up hour number one. Hour number two coming up. Lots more to get to. When we come back, an endorsement in the governor's race from a high-profile name in the state and what that could mean with some of the national discussions that we're having right now. We'll talk about that when we come back. This is The Voice of Reason. Stay here.
It's time for Reason.
Do you believe that it's okay for the government to come in and make you sign all these permits and make you do all these regulations and jump through all these red hoops and have to pay for all these fines and pay for all these licenses and do all these things and then say that we live in a private, economic, free market, capitalist society to where you can actually set the prices for your product that's best for the consumer? Tell me how that makes sense in any way, shape, or form.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Then I get on my knees and pray. We don't get fooled again. Don't get fooled again.
That's what I'm talking about. Welcome into The Voice of Reason, broadcasting live out of the heart of the nation here in Wichita, Kansas. On the Big Talker, 1480 on the AM side, 102.5 on the FM side, KQAM, simulcasting on TV, KGPT TV, channel 2610. What up? Welcome in. It is the day we've been looking forward to. kicking off a brand new week. I know it's hard after the holiday week last week. Now we got a full extended 5-day week this week. You're struggling a little bit. Let me help you, my friends. Let's wake you up the right way. Setting the tone for not only for today, but for the entire week. Doing the politicking thing is what we like to do. There's a lot to get to as we're getting closer and closer to the election season.
Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started.
That's what I'm talking about. 316-721-8255. 316-721-TALK. If you want to join into the program, would love to hear from you today. What's on your mind? Lots to get to, lots to talk about. Big news never seems to go away, as there's always something, some kind of shenanigans, someone complaining about something. The trigger warnings have been announced officially. This is the official announcement of your trigger warning. If you are on the progressive side of the aisle, don't you worry, because, you know, I'm sure that something will offend you in some way, shape, or form. Oh, mon Dieu. It's a big struggle. Coming up in hour number 3, Mike Rosen, 850 KOA out of Denver, my radio mentor. It's been a long time since the last time we talked with him was during the primary races for the presidential run a couple of years ago. So it's been a while. He is semi-retired now, out of the radio industry, but yet still doing a couple of things here and there. Really looking forward to chatting with him, as he is a great friend, a great mentor, and the guy really that got me into radio. So really excited to chat with him coming up in hour number 3. A little bit from now. But until then, it's open lines to you, 316-721-8255. The Facebook Live feed's up and rolling as well. You can like that, facebook.com/1480 KQAM. Like it, share it, leave a comment, ask a question, whatever you want to do. You're more than welcome to. I want to ask you this. If a coach, if a player, if a celebrity, if a movie star, if a singer, if somebody like that comes out and endorses a candidate for an election on their private time, they do that not on the field, not on the court, not on the baseball field, they're not doing the political message while they're actually doing their job, but they're doing it in their off time. Is it the same as if you're doing it on the job? For example, as you know, the big news that came out as of last week, and he's actually going to be in town today, but Andy Reid, the head coach for the Kansas City Chiefs football team, has endorsed Governor Jeff Coyler for governor for the election coming up. And there's going to be apparently a benefit dinner coming up. I believe it's tonight, and Andy Reid's going to be attending this dinner. And, I mean, it costs anywhere from $500 to $4,000 for the benefit because, of course, you buy the dinner, you buy the plate, and it goes towards a campaign, and you support them, and then you hear the speeches and everything. And Andy Reid attending this, endorsing Governor Jeff Coyler. The media has already come out and attacked Andy Reid for doing this endorsement while we're going through this whole NFL debacle with the kneeling for the national anthem. And I'm having a really hard time connecting dot A to dot B here on the connection between how these two correlate. I'm really having a tough time here. Now, I know that the progressives are going to come out and say, well, how dare you attack NFL players for making a political statement on the travesties of law enforcement attacking minority groups and so on and so forth, and the evil pigs that they are, and, you know, whatever else they want to attack. And they say, you criticize that, but then you allow Andy Reid to endorse a political candidate in the primary when it comes to the governor's race. And how dare you do that? And these individuals, like the coach, should not be allowed to endorse any type of political candidate if the NFL players are going to be fined and punished for kneeling for the national anthem. And I ask you, is there a correlation between the two? Because the obvious stance, the obvious commonsensical response would be, no, there is not. There's a difference between doing it when you have your uniform on and you're on the field playing, or you're on the field doing your job, or even if you're in the office doing your job, and all of a sudden you stand up and you rip off your button-up shirt and you have a Jeff Coyler t-shirt on, or a Kris Kobach t-shirt on, or a Jim Barnett or a Ken Seltzer or something like that, or even on the Democrat side, a Laura Kelly or a Josh Schwati or somebody, and I can see it too. You stand up in your cubicle and you have your tie on and your button-up white shirt, and all of a sudden you rip it off like Superman, and you got a political shirt underneath there, and you hold up a sign and you say, I support this person. And there's a difference between that and doing your job and then going home at nighttime and then going out and saying, yeah, I support this individual and I'm going to help campaign for them and I'm going to do phone calls for them and I'm going to give them money and I'm going to do this message on the side. It's like the celebrities to where it's up to you if you want to do it or not. And we've mentioned this many times before, but the celebrity that would come out and say, yeah, you know what? I don't like guns. As a celebrity, let's say, for example, like a movie star that says, I'm going to do action movies and I'm going to use guns in my action movies because people really like them and I make a lot of money doing them. But then I'm going to come out and say, oh, yeah, guns are ridiculous and Americans that actually purchase guns are stupid. That's happened before. Or the musician, like the Dixie Chicks, if you remember that way back when, that said that George W. Bush is like Hitler and he's a terrible, horrible individual. And then everybody ends up burning their CDs. That you had the choice to do so, but you do so on your own time. All of these statements that were made are done on their own time. It's not doing it on the job. And there's a really big difference there, isn't there not? Or is it the celebrity status that as long as someone has a microphone in your face and they're interviewing you, whether you're on the job or whether you're not on the job, that you're going to be criticized for such? And I think you should be criticized for such one way or another. But again, there's a big difference between doing it on the job when you're being represented and doing it on your own time. If the NFL players want to protest, I've never said anything about them not protesting or not showing their support or wanting to do something in the community or wanting to do something positive or wanting to bring an awareness on their own time when they're not in uniform. All the power to them. You have that right. No one's stopping you. The whole kneeling for the national anthem has never, ever, 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 ever been an issue about the First Amendment because the government is not coming down and saying you're not allowed to protest, you're not allowed to make awareness, you're not allowed to fight for this message, you're not allowed to do this. The government is not doing that, which means on your own time, when you're not in your work uniform, then you have all the power to do whatever you want to. And that's what Andy Reid is doing as the head coach of a football team. And coming out and saying, yeah, you know what? I endorse Governor Jeff Coyler. I'm going to go to this benefit. I'm going to spend my own personal money, and I'm going to support this candidate for governor because I think he's going to do the best job. That's what Andy Reid has said, and all the power to him. But yet the media has come out. How dare he do this? How dare he make this statement? I can't believe he's doing this, and that's just going to muddy up the whole kneeling for the national anthem and the First Amendment rights and the protests that are happening in the NFL right now. This is not the time for a coach to be making a statement like this and to be actively involved in politics like this when there's such a national debate and a national confrontation when it comes to the players actually trying to be involved and active themselves. So I open it up to you, 316-721-8255. Is this the same type of issue? Is this going to muddy up the problem? Or is this a cut and dry personal life versus work life type of scenario to where we shouldn't even be involved in that? But of course, the media and the progressives are going to find any way to demonize someone who is actually Republican in somewhat of a high-profile position like the head coach of an NFL team, especially here in the local communities, like Andy Reid for the Kansas City Chiefs, and for someone like that to come out and say, yeah, not allowed to do that. We're going to shut you down, we're going to demonize you, and we're going to make your life a living hell as you try to be actually political in your personal life, because how dare you do so as long as you tell your NFL players are not allowed to kneel on the field. 316-721-8255. I find the comparison very ironic because there is no such comparison in my humble opinion, but that's just me on the radio. I want to hear from you. Got to take a break. 16 minutes past the hour. Your thoughts and calls on that when we come back. This is The Voice of Reason here on a Monday morning.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
22 minutes past the hour. Welcome back into The Voice of Reason. Great to have you along today. The opinion piece out of the Kansas City Star when they go on about this Andy Reid endorsing Governor Jeff Coyler for governor in this election coming up. Try to ties in the whole NFL protesting in this opinion piece, saying, and in celebration of the new rules, calling for all players on the field to stand, quote, and show respect for the flag. President Donald Trump offered the appallingly un-American notion that maybe the players shouldn't be in the country if they want to protest. Our country, of course, was built on and stands on and was defended for its values, not its symbols, and there is something tyrannical and deeply distressing about the notion of forced loyalty, oaths, and proclamations. Conservative or liberal, anyone should agree, we don't do that here. And they go on to, of course, the use of a coach being able to endorse a political candidate when it comes to an election. Here's the hypocrisy between all this. The double-edged sword that no matter where the progressives turn, they're always in the wrong, it seems like. Always. I mean, maybe they have good intentions. Maybe they have the right thing in their heart. But progressive, not a political party, mind you, remember, but an ideology of progressivism. They are always 99.99999%. It's kind of the log thing. Remember, do you ever take math? Do you ever take calculus? The logarithm, to where you'll never actually hit the purity of the actually hitting the line, but infinity gets closer and closer and closer to the line, but there's always going to be that gap. Remember those? Yeah. That's the progressives. They're always closer and closer and closer and closer and closer and closer to wanting to be pure, but yet they go the other way and they go farther and farther and farther because they're always in the wrong. They're always in the wrong. These individuals have a really hard time when it comes to actually understanding common sense. They try and categorize and say there's a difference, according to them. There is a difference between Roseanne Barr sending out a tweet that was supposedly racist and shutting her down just like that and shutting down her show and firing everybody that was involved and making an example out of her within 30 minutes, by the way. 30 minutes of the tweet actually coming out and saying, yeah, done, we're not going to deal with you any longer, which, by the way, I heard a rumor Roseanne may be coming back to Fox. Fox now saving Last Man Standing and saving Roseanne potentially. That could be getting really interesting. They may have some of the shows that may have some of the highest ratings. I don't know how that's going to turn out, but that's going to be kind of interesting if it ends up happening. But they say there's a difference, supposedly, between Roseanne making this racist tweet and the comedian, I forget her name, that called Ivanka the C word. There's a difference there, according to them. And they say the justification for that is because when the comedian ended up attacking Ivanka Trump and calling her the C word, it was a white woman attacking a white woman, so therefore it was okay. Roseanne, being a white woman attacking a black woman, is racist and therefore hate speech, and therefore it's not tolerated. But if you call another white woman as a white woman a really terrible, derogatory, horrible word on their show, then apparently it's okay. And they're literally trying to split hairs and justify this. Because no matter what they do, it's always okay. It's always right. That's their mentality. That's the way that they operate, is that when they do it, they have a justification. When we do it, then it's a terrible, horrible thing, because we have to have different standards for different people based on their ideology, because we have to have that grace period or that grace built into the progressive mindset, as opposed to a conservative where you're already terrible. So if you just do that, then you're just exposing who you really are. Right? It doesn't matter that a progressive is actually a very hateful, bitter individual. There's actually a grace for that because they're sick and tired of our crap, right? Our fascism, our hate speech, our whatever. So when they lash out, then it's justified and it's actually okay. So there's a difference in a splitting of hairs between there, but then they don't understand the splitting of hairs or the difference, the major difference between actually protesting on the job, kneeling during the national anthem during an NFL game, and then a coach that's endorsing a political individual and a political candidate privately on their off time, going to a dinner in the evening, supporting them, giving them money, and doing it when they're not on the field. Nor would I be sure that Andy Reid would ever actually say anything while he's in uniform and while he's on the sidelines talking about the game. I can just see at the halftime interview, they go in, they're about ready to get done with halftime, and the media pulls them aside as they're going into the locker rooms, and they're like, oh, coach, how's the game going today, and how do you feel about it? Oh, things are doing really well. The players are doing fantastic today. They're doing great. Oh, by the way, did you know that I endorsed Governor Jeff Coyler for the state of Kansas for governor? I really hope he gets that, because I think he's going to do a great job. Do you think he's going to do something like that? Because that would be the equivalent then. That would be the discussion that we could then have of saying, oh, look, now he's brought his personal life to work. The same way that the protesters of the national anthem have done when they go to work and they put on the uniform and they put on the gear and they go out to the field and they get interviewed on the sidelines and they're like, what are you going to do today?
Oh, yeah, I'm going to catch the ball really good and I'm going to throw it really far. Yeah, it's going to be great.
Okay, what else do you feel?
Yeah, well, I'm going to kneel during the national anthem.
Because all the NFL players sound like Arnold Schwarzenegger, apparently. But that's taking it to a whole nother level of personalizing your personal life and your agenda, what you want to promote while you're on work time and doing the work thing. There's a big difference there. But they just don't get it. So they see this endorsement as the exact same as protesting while they're on the field, but yet they don't understand the difference of name calling somebody and calling them out and being derogatory toward them in some way, shape, or form. Because, again, we didn't defend Roseanne. We said, yeah, that was a really dumb tweet. What the hell are you doing? And you probably deserve getting fired on that sense just because of the fact that you did something that not only doesn't represent conservative values, doesn't represent Donald Trump, but you know the media is going to try and twist it and spin it that way while you're trying to be really, really funny because comedians, for whatever reason, try and take things to the next level and take things too far. And a lot of them are getting in trouble for it as long as they're conservative. But if you're liberal, having a mutilated head of President Donald Trump and taking a picture of that, that's not going too far. That's not taking it to the extreme. That's not taking it to the next level. Having Madonna stand up at a rally and say that we need to blow up the White House, that's not taking it too far, right? That's justified because they're fighting hate with hate, so therefore their hate is justified to apparently the hate that we have, which I just don't see and I don't get. The double standard the progressives have on one sense, and then when it doesn't fit their agenda for the double standard, then they just lump it all together and say all of it's bad and you're not allowed to do it. 316-721-8255. Is it a bad thing? Do you think it actually could harm or help the elections in Kansas with celebrities and with different sporting individuals, different coaches, different athletes, somebody coming out and saying that they endorse one candidate or another? Do you think it's going to help them or hurt them in the long run in some way, shape, or form? I'd love to get your thoughts on that. 316-721-8255. By the way, check out KQAMradio.com. I am going to post some pictures of the gun rally that we had on Saturday here in Wichita, the Second Amendment rally that we had. Ended up getting some really cool pictures of that. I'm going to put them on the Voice of Reason page probably the next day or two. So check it out, KQAMradio.com. Under the local shows tab, you can find the Voice of Reason. You can find the weekly guest lineup. You can find the podcast of the show. You can find the daily blog or weekly blog. I try and update it every week or so. And then, of course, you can see some of the pictures that we have of us out and about doing the thing. Got to take a break. Lots more to get to today. Your phone calls as well. When we come back, the economy still doing relatively well. The Trump economy nationwide and tax receipts in the state of Kansas. What did they look like for last month? We'll break it down, good, bad, or indifferent. Is it helping us or hurting us when the tax receipts are higher? What does that actually mean? Tax rates higher? Oh, shocker, right? This is the Voice of Reason. Stay here.
You can't stop me tonight. You make me feel invincible. I feel it. Invincible.
It's time for some common sense, sanity, and reason.
You can't handle the truth.
This is the Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
That's the way we roll. Welcome back into it. Starting off your Monday the best way we know how to do so. Right here on KQAM on the Voice of Reason. Welcome in 316-721-8255. 316-721-TALK. If you want to join in, we'd love to hear from you today. What's on your mind? I am your political therapist. Let's work through it together. I'll sit back. You know what? We do need to have it such like that. I'll just kick back. If you're watching the TV and on Facebook Live, I'll kick back, prop the feet up, smoke my pipe. Not the pipe of what many of the people in my generation actually smoke, but like actual legit tobacco pipe. I gotta say, I don't smoke a whole lot. I really don't. I don't smoke cigarettes. I don't like cigarettes. Once in a while, I smoke cigars. I'll smoke a pipe once in a while. I enjoy the hookah, as we've discussed before, once in a while. But I tell you what, there's nothing better than the smell of that stuff. That pipe tobacco. It's so delicious. It's so yummy. 316-721-8255. 316-721-TALK. The tax receipts in the state of Kansas, $108 million more than anticipated for the month of May. What does that mean? Well, that means, number one, the economy is doing well, that we're actually enjoying the Trump economy as we're seeing some of the national stuff happen, which is really good news. But we're also seeing the response of increased taxes. Is it really a good thing that we're seeing more and more and more money go into the state, higher than projections, and then they're going to turn around and say, oh, yeah, let's go ahead and spend it. We're not going to pay off debts. We're not going to actually make things any better. We're just going to use it and actually spend it, because we did increase spending by $1 billion this last session, was the increase of our budget. Don't you feel all warm and cozy about that? Rick Everett from the news site swinging in studio with us as well. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. How are you?
We are living the dream, doing the thing.
So I did not get to hear the first hour and a half of the show.
Yes.
Have you touched on the whole Kobach parade thing?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
So question.
The precious snowflakes that got all offended and upset about it.
Did he do more good, or did he create damage in that move?
No, he did it. He did nothing wrong. I mean, he did what he wanted to do, which was create a media story. Look, this went national. It was on foxnews.com. If you go and check out the national Fox News website, it was from The Hill. The Washington Post commented on it. It made national news. And, of course, everybody all up in arms, the city of Shawnee apologizing for it. Look, here's the thing. We live in a state with constitutional carry, meaning that anybody at that parade could have had an open or a concealed carry on them at the parade. You have law enforcement that's at the parade with firearms for the protection during the parade. And now they have to pass a city ordinance to not allow a replica of a gun actually go through the parade.
Okay,
because people are so offended and upset about this.
Here's where I maybe have it was so hard to unspin this story. You heard it at the bottom of the hour news,
Yes.
Okay? And that was after severe unspinning on my part.
Yes.
Anyway.
Well, I mean,
but
the media
here's where I
demonize
might
it.
have just a little bit of issue. Maybe just a little bit of issue. Okay. You talk about there was law enforcement there that had weapons, and we're in a conceal or an open carry state, and anybody could have had a weapon on them. I get all that.
Mm-hmm.
But this was a replica of a .50 caliber machine gun.
So what? It's a replica.
That's not a concealed carry or open carry type weapon, okay?
Look, back in the day, and this is what I said in the last hour, back in the day, if you would have seen something like that go through a parade, and you disagreed or you agreed.
On a military vehicle, I could get it.
It's an American Jeep wrapped in the American flag. I mean, come on.
My gosh.
Here's the thing.
I'm just saying it might have been a little bit of overkill.
Here's the thing. You know exactly where Kris Kobach stands on the issue. I mean, that right there. And for the individuals that were at the parade, here's the normal response by some. Either some saying, hey, there's an American guy with an American Jeep with a replica of a .50 caliber mounted machine gun on there. That's awesome. I like this guy. Or you would say, hey, there's a guy riding a Jeep with an American flag with a mounted replica of a .50 caliber machine gun. I cannot believe he did that. I do not like him. Now I know I won't support him. End of story. Done. But now we take it to the next level with our wannabe activism in today's times, saying, I cannot believe he did that. It is truly, which I don't understand how in the time of school shootings, I've yet to see a school shooting with someone with a .50 caliber machine gun where they went through the school and used that machine gun in order to kill. So it's offensive, and it's bad taste with the idea.
Yeah, I don't buy into all
shootings.
that. I definitely don't buy into all that.
It's completely absurd. So why is there an issue?
Well, you started off, as I asked the question, you started off saying his whole intent was to create a media frenzy, so I guess kudos. He got it done.
Well, he did. He got it done because he knew that this would probably cause some type of discussion to some degree, and it worked. It worked. He got what he wanted out of it, so kudos to him on that. But again, there shouldn't be an issue. They should have seen that and be like, oh, okay. It's like people see this gun, and it's really scary, and oh my gosh, we're all gonna die. And that's their response to this, rather than thinking, I don't know, rationally about the situation. If you see a politician riding in a Jeep with a gun, do you really think that the politician's all of a sudden going to open up fire on all the constituents? Do you really think that's going to happen? Give me a break. Give me a break. This is truly the epitome of the snowflake generation being really, really offended and really concerned about anything just for the sake of. They probably had to run in the city itself. probably had to go back and, color in the adult coloring books and pet their therapy dogs thereafter just to feel better.
Well, and he did it right in the heart of the left of Kansas. So.
Yeah, so again, he knew what could potentially happen with it, and he got the media, which is what he wanted to do, so great for him.
Well, like I said, I didn't get to hear the first hour and a half of the show, so I wanted your input.
I think it was fantastic. I think that it really shows the stance that he's taken, and he's trying to...
far be it from you to ever speak at a Second Amendment rally.
Heaven forbid like that. Yeah, that's crazy. They'd probably have to run. I find it really funny. I really do. Got to enjoy the Second Amendment rally over the weekend, and the media, some of the media was there. I got a hat tip to KWCH because they were there reporting on it and covering it, and they interviewed some of the people in the crowd. They interviewed, I think, every single speaker there except for me, which is hilarious. And I don't really care because I don't really necessarily want to talk. But they literally interviewed just about every single other speaker. There was like 9 speakers, and they interviewed just about all of them except for this guy. Because they probably see me and then like run away, which is totally fine. I just find it ironic.
Why do you think that?
I don't know. That's happened like the last 3 rallies that I've been to.
Maybe they just don't like you.
Maybe they don't like me. I've called them out enough, I guess. So I don't know.
You're probably not earning points this morning either.
No, probably not. I just find it ironic. I've been to 3 political rallies in the last 2 months,
but you're not a candidate, Andy.
Well, no, but they interview people that weren't even candidates.
Okay.
Yeah, I just find it funny. I mean, I don't really care, but it's kind of funny.
Do you think there might be some angst between them and you? I mean,
well, probably. It probably doesn't help
you think
that
they might lean a little left.
Well, either
so
that or they just don't like the fact that I take shots at the media while I'm speaking.
Not you.
Not me. Yeah, let's take a phone call. What do you say? 316-721-8255. Good morning. What's your name?
Hey, this is Jim.
What's going on, Jim?
Hey, Jim.
Well, back to the subject of Mr. Kobach's Jeep. Actually, I was maybe, if I had to be offended, I'd be more offended with using the flag as decoration. The flags ought to be mounted on a pole and flown from the bumpers a lot more than being made into a paint job on a Jeep.
Yeah,
vehicle wrap.
We've really gotten kind of away from that, haven't we? Just in general as a society. I mean, we wear the American T-shirts nowadays, or the American flag hat, or you're right. I mean, we've kind of strayed away from the not altering the flag and only putting it on the pole and letting it wave instead of actually making it into apparel, because we kind of do that all over the place now. And some people, when they first started doing that, got really worked up about that.
Well, I'm completely in touch with a little flag patch on your shoulder. Soldiers do that. A little flag patch maybe on a hat. I've got one of those. But to make the whole Jeep that flashy,
that big, American flag
wrap.
The
wrap is fine. But in my mind, I'm 72 years old. Jeep should be dark green and kind of look like what you see on MASH.
There you
General
go.
Stars or something like that.
There you go.
And I took that mock machine gun as a tribute to our soldiers. And certainly it would be a good idea maybe to have some soldiers at the schools to protect the schools in case a 100-man terrorist group attacks the school. But
you never know. You never know.
And Kris is a nice guy. I met him about 10 years ago at a empty holster demonstration up at K-State. He was there, and I went up there, and he was one of the people on the platform, along as the former president of the Kansas State Rifle Association, Patricia Stone King. Nice guy. He understands the issue almost more than any other person running for office. I intend to vote for him, despite the fact he's got Wink. And my opinion of Wink went up a little bit yesterday at the meeting.
At the rally, yeah, he did do a good speech there at the rally on Saturday.
He did a nice job, and he was passing out copies of the Constitution and Declaration of Independence, and so he's a good man. I think it'll be a fine fine candidate, and I think, to answer your question, maybe you didn't get interviewed because they just don't like the competition.
Well, and I think
there we go.
there's a good point there.
There you go. Jim, I appreciate it very much. You bring up an interesting comment because that hasn't been a discussion that we've done in a really long time. And maybe it's a generational thing where we have gotten a little more relaxed when it comes to that. But the whole wearing the apparel of the American flag, I don't know. Do you like or not like the fact that people now change the flag a bit for the apparel and wearing the American flag T-shirts and all the.
I don't have any
the
flag apparel. Okay, I just don't. I mean, I don't have any.
Because I kind of enjoy it. I think it's the good old boy American
now, I have
way.
there's a brand of T-shirts that has a full American flag on it. It's not like the shirt is made out of a flag.
Right.
But it's an American flag on the front of the shirt. In fact, the name of the apparel is Old Glory.
Old Glory.
So, but I wear those in the summertime. It's a T-shirt, especially like on the 4th of July or on Memorial Day or something like that. I'll wear it because it's patriotic, you know.
I always kind of like that stuff. I don't know, but I
remember,
remember...
not to wrap a Jeep in, maybe. I tend to agree with Jim. I don't think they need to look like MASH, but...
Why? Why not, though?
Well, I don't know, Andy.
See?
I don't know.
Got to break.
I don't see a flag wrapped around yours, and you're patriotic as hell. So why isn't your truck wrapped in a Jeep? Why don't you do that while Tiffany's out of town?
You know what? She may have to come back and be surprised when she comes back. It's like, what did you do to my truck? Yeah,
I think you should. She wouldn't care.
Nah, she wouldn't care. We're the American way. That's the way we roll. 48 minutes past the hour. Your thoughts and calls when we come back. This is the Voice of Reason.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier on the Big Talker, KQAM.
Into the Voice of Reason, making it happen today, wrapping up hour number 2 already. Can you believe it? This show goes by just way too fast. Welcome in 316-721-8255. This portion of the Voice of Reason, as it always is on a Monday, brought to you by the AARP, whether it's the Fraud Watch Network, the Retirement Calculator, getting involved, going to the movies, having some fun, protecting your identity, and no matter what it may be, the AARP has got you covered. Check them out, aarp.org/KS for the state of Kansas. Marin Turner back on the line with us. Good morning, Marin. How are you today?
Good morning and happy June.
I cannot believe it. We are officially halfway through 2018. Can you believe that?
That means that we're having lots of fun.
Yes, we are having loads of fun, and it's just going by way too fast. Lately, you guys have been really busy. We talked with the last few weeks with gearing up for the Shred event that you guys did to help protect people's identity, not have a bunch of paperwork that you have stored up to potentially be compromised, information, personal information, that sort of thing. Now that that's all done, taking it to another level, and you guys now working on an online course to be able to help individuals. Maybe they don't quite understand how to maneuver around the online access and the interweb, or whether it's trying to maybe find potential jobs, part-time jobs, full-time jobs online. But you guys are there to help them out, correct?
Yes, we are offering a 2-part online program to help people stay connected and competitive in their careers. And this is an online course that is very good for people who may have been out of the job market for a while and like to get back in, or they'd like to stay competitive in their career, or they just like to have some answers on how to best navigate the website. So on Wednesday, June 20th, from 6 to 6:30 p.m., we'll be offering part 1. And that's going to focus on navigating through applicant tracking systems, best practices for online resumes, where to search for online jobs, and how to interview via video chat programs like Skype. And then we're going to offer the second part of this program on June 27th from 6 to 6:30 p.m., and we'll cover things like tech skills needed to stay competitive on the job and ways to stay safe online. That's really important. We'll talk about why innovation can result in success and creative thinking and problem solving. This, again, is an online program. It is free, but you do have to register. So if you'd like to be part of this really great program, please log on to www.aarp.org/KS to find more information.
Very good. That's a great program to be able to help you learn about that. Because I tell you what, the job searching online is kind of a never-ending changing environment with different sites that come out to be able to help collaborate and be able to consolidate some of these searching, to going to individual sites and being able to apply there, to, as you mentioned, the Skyping, which has now become apparently a really big thing with people wanting to do interviews via Skype, especially if they're in different states or different parts of the state. And I've never done it before, but it is kind of becoming the big new trend, because why not have that convenience there? But it is kind of a complicated system if you've never done it before.
It really is, and if you've been out of the job market for a while, or you just need to update your skills, you'll need to know how to Skype, because as you said, this is becoming more and more part of our reality. And so I'm hoping that more and more people will register for this two-part online program, because it looks like it's really great, and I've heard nothing but great things about it. I actually have registered myself, and it takes all of 2 minutes to do. So again, if you'd like to register for this free two-part online program, all you have to do is log on to www.aarp.org/KS and register.
Very
good. You can also call us anytime at 1-866-448-3619. We'd love to talk to you about this course or anything else.
Fantastic. No, it's going to be a great course. Definitely get signed up for that one. We got about a minute left, but I do have to ask, outside of that, I know you guys have been working on some new movies for grown-ups and some of the other things here in the Wichita area. Any other updates on some of the other stuff people can get signed up for here for this area?
Well, we have so many things that are coming up for Wichita. We're going to have a really great ice cream social at the Grandparents Park. We worked with the city of Wichita to develop that park, and it's the only one of its kind in Kansas. And so I'll be talking more about that in the upcoming weeks. And then the implementation of the CARE Act is coming up in July, and so I'll be talking a lot about what you need to expect when you go to hospitals after July 1st. And as you said, movies for grown-ups, we offer those every other month, and we will continue to do that because they're so popular.
Fantastic. I love it. Marin Turner with the AARP. Check them out, aarp.org/KS for the state of Kansas. Marin, always a pleasure. Appreciate it. Have a great week. We'll chat with you again next Monday.
Thanks, Andy.
Always a pleasure there. Check them out, aarp.org. Got to take a break. Wrapping up hour number 2. Hour number 3 right around the corner. We got a lot more to get to, plus a really great guest. Looking forward to chatting with him coming up in just a few minutes. This is The Voice of Reason. Stay in.
Speak. It's time for Reason.
Do you believe that it's okay for the government to come in and make you sign all these permits and make you do all these regulations and jump through all these red hoops and have to pay for all these fines and pay for all these licenses and do all these things, and then say that we live in a private, economic, free market, capitalist society to where you can actually set the prices for your product that's best for the consumer? Tell me how that makes sense in any way, shape, or form.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Then I'll get on my knees and pray. We don't get fooled again. Don't get fooled again.
That's what I'm talking about. Welcome into The Voice of Reason, hour number 3, The Voice of Reason, broadcasting live out of the heart of the nation here in Wichita, Kansas on the Big Talker, 1480 on the AM side, 102.5 of the FM side, KQAM, simulcasting on TV, KGPT TV, channel 2610. What up? Welcome in. It's a Monday, starting off your week the best way we know how to do so, and let's get you pumped up. We set the tone, baby, as you start not only your day, but for the entire week, getting you pumped up, doing the politicking as we get into the crazy season that's called election season. Let's make it happen on a Monday.
Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Let's get it started.
That's what I'm talking about. 316-721-8255. 316-721-TALK. If you want to join into the program, we'd love to hear from you today. Covered a lot of ground, lots more to get to. You can always like us on Facebook. Facebook Live feeds up and rolling as well. Facebook.com/1480 KQAM. I want to jump into our next guest. I'm really excited to have him on. It's been way too long since we've had him on the show. He is a radio legend when it comes to the Denver market. He's been there for a long time. He was my mentor, actually the guy that got me into radio, and I've learned so much from him. He's a great friend. He's a great mentor myself. From 850 KOA in Denver is Mr. Mike Rosen on the line with us. Mike, how are you, my friend?
Hello, Andy, and congratulations. I'm delighted to see that your reach is expanding, and I'm always proud to see my prodigies become successes in the war of ideas.
Well, we are doing it little by little, my friend. It is a hard, long fight, but we are growing, we're expanding, and again, I have to give the credit to you. I got to say, some of the best times in radio was that 6 months, which I know you did your internships for roughly like 3 to 4 months. I got to hang on for 6 months, which was really cool, and we got to have a lot of fun back then. It was a great time.
Well, Milton Friedman and William F. Buckley and people like that were my mentors, so I like to pass the baton on.
Well, we're trying to hold that up loud and proud, and we really appreciate that. The last time that we had talked on the air was actually during the presidential primaries, and now that we've been a year and a half into the Trump administration, we've seen a bit of a budget cut that happened around Christmas time last year. We've done a little bit of the repeal from the individual mandates when it came to Obamacare. As a whole, I got to ask you, what's your thoughts on the first year and a half of the Trump administration?
Well, keep in mind, unlike some on the right, I was not among the so-called never Trumpers.
Sure.
I was more of a never Hillary or Bernie Sanders type.
Mm-hmm.
So while I'm not Trump's biggest cheerleader, I certainly voted for him. He's had a number of very successful elements of his tenure after just about 500 days. Neil Gorsuch on the Supreme Court, a whole bunch of good, solid constitutionalists on other federal courts, the rollback of EPA excesses, Dodd-Frank partial rollback, the tax reform bill, which was on balance pretty good, increases in military spending, getting out of the delusional Paris Accords on climate change, killing the Iran nuclear deal. Mm-hmm. I liked most of his cabinet picks. I give him an A- in what he's accomplished, given the fact that he wasn't elected king or dictator. He was only elected president.
Sure.
In a system with 3 different branches and checks and balances. There are a lot of things he promised that he could never do on his own hook, but he could certainly repeal a lot of Obama's executive orders. I like to differentiate what he achieves as compared to what he says, since a lot of things that he says, his tweets and his impulsive acts and the misstatements, that's all part of the mix, but I'm more concerned about him advancing an economic agenda that's mostly conservative, mm-hmm. and at least putting a temporary halt to the path to socialism as the Democratic Party has moved more and more to its left.
That is very true, and they become more and more on the fringe, which is entertaining to watch, but yet still dangerous for what they actually try to implement. Right now, we're seeing a 17, 18-year low when it comes to unemployment. We're seeing the economy begin to tick back up. I was not a fan of the omnibus bill that they ended up passing and signing just a few months ago, but now we're into the stage of actually looking at the appropriations bills of what we could potentially start cutting or consolidating. Do you think that we're going to see any substantial gains when it comes to the budget with this appropriations process?
No, it's not doable. The omnibus bill, which is typical and happens every single year, was absolutely necessary because the Republicans didn't take my advice and kill the filibuster in the Senate. They did it partially for court nominees, but they should have thrown the filibuster out of the window. Having not done that, the Democrats in the Senate, as long as they're unified, can prevent a 60% vote to override filibusters, and as such, they can stall the budget process. In order to get an increase in much-needed military spending, the Republicans, Mitch McConnell in the House and Mitch McConnell in the Senate, Paul Ryan's in the House, did as much as they could do. here's the problem, and I'm sure you're aware of this because you've heard me talk about this on the radio for years. 70% of all federal spending is in means-tested income transfer program, social programs, and entitlements like Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid. That's 70% of the budget. It's on automatic pilot, almost all of it. It doesn't need a new appropriation every year.
Sure.
It is appropriated in perpetuity. And if you add in that the share of interest on the national debt that's associated with that 70% of the budget, it's even worse than that. And if you remember, when Trump was campaigning, he didn't put entitlement reform on the table at all. The Democrats are wholly committed to an expansion of the welfare state. It's what they stand for, and it's how they get elected.
Well, and when
and Republicans, just to finish the point, and given the political realities, Republicans in the House and the Senate are scared to death of actually cutting entitlement spending.
Sure.
The best you can do is to slow the rate of growth, but without Trump pushing that, it's just not going to be done. And ultimately, unless some miracle happens, this is what's going to drive the country into fiscal insolvency.
Oh, sure. No, you're absolutely right. I mean, when we even talk about cutting and you hear the media say, oh, he wants to cut, it's an X amount of billions of dollars out of Medicare and Medicaid and how it's going to kill all these people and they're going to die in the streets. And we're not even talking about actual cuts, but as you mentioned, but just the slowing of the growth of. Now here in the Wichita area and in the Mid-America region, I mean, with the ag bill and the farm bill, that's a really hotly discussed bill. I mean, 90% of that bill is food stamps in the SNAP program, and we're not even talking about the actual funding or investment of crop insurance or what actually needs to be done to take care of farmers in the area here. We're talking about food stamps in the SNAP program, and when he starts talking about a work requirement just to say, if you work 20 hours a week, then you can actually qualify for this for some individuals, then they panic and they lose their mind saying that we don't care about the poor, we don't care about the needy, and that we're all just going to die in the streets.
You might remember that during Bill Clinton's administration, he was, after the 1994 midterm elections, when the Republicans took control of the Senate and the House for the first time since the Eisenhower administration had a Republican majority. That was Newt Gingrich and the contract with America. After Bill Clinton had vetoed a work requirement in welfare, what was called welfare reform at the time, he vetoed it twice, but after the 94 election, he was forced to make a deal with the Republicans, and he went along with that welfare reform. Now, it was mostly symbolic. That's not where the big bucks are. The big bucks are in Social Security, Medicare, and Medicaid.
Sure.
But when Bill Clinton signed off on the work requirement, you didn't hear the left up in arms. They're up in arms not because it's being done by Republicans and by Trump.
Well, that is true. Let's look a little bit further in. The election time is always a time that I get giddy about, and I know that you get excited about as well. And I got to say, I've continued the torch and the mantle of the party Trump's person, which I know has been the huge issue that you always advocated for. I took that and I've focused it on, as we do the party Trump's person, the primary is the number one most important election that we can have, because that sets the tone for the party and sets the tone for what we go into the general election. This is supposed to be the midterm year where everything's supposed to change. The blue wave, quote unquote, is supposed to be happening across the nation. The question I have is, do you see the blue wave actually happening in this election?
Too early to tell. In some states and some cities on the Republican side, the angry pitchfork crowd wanting rock-ribbed conservatives to displace incumbent conservatives who aren't as rock-ribbed. In some places it's been successful, in some places it's been unsuccessful. The problem is, in certain congressional districts that are swing districts, and there aren't very many swing districts, maybe 10% of all the seats in the 435 seats in the House, if you run a Republican who is too far to the right, he's going to lose to a Democrat. And the most important thing is for your party, whether it's in the House or the Senate, to be the majority party. The majority party controls those legislative bodies. And in order to be the majority party, you have to have a big enough tent to have some more moderate people to win in swing districts. So we'll see how it plays out. It'll be a while before we'll know what Trump's impact on history and the Republican Party is. As I said, I like a lot of the things he's done, but his language and his behavior has turned off a lot of swing voters.
Sure.
And as enthusiastic as his core is maybe 25% of the electorate. It's not enough to make the Republican Party, even in the post-Trump era, a majority party. You need that core, but that core isn't the base. The base is larger. Mm-hmm. And the number of Republican voters who are right center as opposed to right wing is greater than the number of Trump voters. We'll see how that plays out. And if we have a disaster in 2018 in the midterms, if the Democrats take control of the House and the Senate, Trump's legacy is probably going to be a negative one.
Sure.
I don't know if that's going to be the outcome, but it's possible. The economy is doing very well, and that can make the difference in 2018 in favor of the Republican Party, since obviously Trump isn't running in 2018, but Republicans are running all over the country. We're seeing job growth. You talked about the low unemployment rate, although the workforce participation rate is still disturbingly high, and wages are starting to go up as well. So a lot of good things are happening on that front, and that can make the difference.
Well, and I think if they campaign on that positive message like that, then we could do well, because the Democrats, the only campaign tactic that I've heard is we hate Trump, and if we get the majority, we're going to impeach him. And that's the only campaign that I've actually heard with their campaign message. If Republicans campaign on, the economy's doing well, we have an 18-year unemployment rate. We're trying to cut some of the budget. We've actually did what we promised by moving our embassy to Jerusalem. We're having the conversation with North Korea. We're doing all these things. Look at what we've done. We need to maintain the majority. If we campaign on that, then I think we could do relatively well.
I agree. That's a good strategy. And you're right. The Democrats don't have an alternative.
Right.
Really, the only alternative is the Elizabeth Warren and Bernie Sanders wing of the Democratic Party, the admittedly socialist wing that just wants bigger and bigger government. And here's the key point. This is an insight into the great public divide right now, and it's been growing. Liberals have no limiting principles when it comes to the size of government. Mm-hmm. They just want to throw that money around to every possible constituent on the left and don't want to come to grips with our tax capacity. Our national tax capacity has been exceeded by what we spend for almost every single year for the last 40 or 50 years. And the Democrats, the left wing of the Democratic Party, wants to push that even more. When they talk about all the people that will be hurt if we even reform the rate of growth of social spending. If we don't, we're going to go broke, and there'll be hell to pay. But there is no limiting principle. They live in a utopian world when it comes to economics.
They live in their fantasy world altogether, too. They just don't grasp common sense and reality. We're talking with Mike Rosen, 850 KOA in Denver. We got just a couple minutes left. I do have to shift gears just for a minute, though, because I know that you are semi-retired from the radio, but you are still doing a movie review show. And right. I got to ask you, what's the latest and greatest? I have not seen a whole lot of movies as of lately, but I've seen the previews of this new movie, Upgrade. Have you seen that one? Is that any good?
No, I've never even heard of it. Upgrade?
Yeah, I think it's called Upgrade. The guy that... I don't know. His family was killed, and he ends up getting all mechanicalized, and some group taking over his body and being able to do the retaliation. It looks kind of interesting. I don't know, but I guess it's kind of a lower budget action horror kind of flick.
I haven't. Is it out yet, or are they just talking about it being released in the future?
It just came out June 1st.
No, I haven't. I haven't seen it. There's really been what I used to do for all of my 35 years on radio, I would do the last hour of my show on Friday. We'd have a movie review show just to lighten things up.
Mm-hmm.
So what I do now is I've got an 8 o'clock to 9 o'clock Saturday morning movie review show. I do still do fill-ins, though, for other talk show hosts on KOA and KHOW, one of our other stations. So that keeps my hand in it.
Sure.
I saw a movie called Hereditary the other day in a screening. I don't know if you've heard about it.
I have not.
It's one of these stultifying horror movies. It's been compared to The Exorcist as far as the impact. And I'm not big on horror movies, but as far as the genre goes, this one was kind of interesting. And of course, did you see RBG?
I have not seen that one yet either, no.
Don't. That's the documentary about Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Oh, joy, yeah.
And a movie like this is never going to do big box office, but it's actually done $6 million of box office, which puts it about, 50th or so this year. Not bad for a documentary, but of course the left is just effusive in its praise of it. They've been talking about it on the morning TV shows. They're calling Ruth Bader Ginsburg a rock star, and this movie a big hit, which it's not a big hit. But
joy. What? I've heard the box office is not doing well for the new Han Solo movie. Why do you think that is?
I did see that one. It's not terrible, but it didn't do anything like Black Panther.
Okay.
It was a walk down memory lane. You get to see how a young Han Solo meets Chewbacca. You remember that planet where the canteen or the bar had all of those crazy characters in it?
Okay.
Tatooine, I think that was called.
Mm-hmm.
There's something like that in this movie as well. It's done okay box office, but not great box office. I liked it a little better than some of the other Star Wars pictures. You're a baseball fan, aren't you?
I am, yes.
Okay. You know that Chewbacca is a Wookiee.
Uh-huh.
Well, I do a lot of tongue-in-cheek stuff on the air, as I'm sure you know. And I was explaining to my co-host when we did the movie review on this, Major League Baseball at that period in the future when Star Wars took place still existed. It was intergalactic now. And in his first year, Chewbacca had a fabulous season, so good that he was named Wookiee of the Year.
There it is.
Thank you for the rim shot.
I love it. Very good. Mike Rosen, 850 KOA, great friend, great mentor, the man himself, radio legend out of Denver there. Mike, it's always great to get you on the show. I really appreciate it. Thank you again for what you've done to help me get here because, we couldn't have done that. It's a lot of fun with what we're growing and what we're doing now. We got to get you back on the show again soon.
Anytime, Andy. Best of luck to you.
Always a pleasure right there. Mike Rosen, 850 KOA in Denver. We'll take a break, open up lines to you as we wrap up the show today. This is The Voice of Reason on KQAM. Stay here.
This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier.
Bottom of the hour news coming up there. Went a little long with Mike Rosen. That's all right. Appreciate him joining the show very much. We love chatting with him. Great information. Great guy. It was really cool to be able to work with him as we got into this whole radio shindig in the first place. Lots more coming up. We'll open up lines, see what's open lines for the last half hour of the show. This is The Voice of Reason on a Monday. Let's make it happen, baby.
Two to read the news.
I'm trying to warn everybody and nobody takes me cereal.
You're in the wrong place. This is The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier on the Big Talker, 1480 AM and 1025 FM, KQAM.
That's the way we roll. Wrapping up the show today. Appreciate you hanging out with us today. Very mucho gracias. 35 minutes past the hours. 316-721-8255. 316-721-TALK. If you want to join into the program, we'd love to hear from you today. Lots to get to. We've covered a lot of ground. Thanks again to Mike Rosen joining the program. Always love chatting with him when we get the chance to do so. What's on your mind today? 316-721-8255. Oh, there's just good news galore, isn't there? There's really just good news galore. I mean, come on. We have an unemployment rate down to 3.8% after U.S. meets job expectations. The economy adding 190,000 jobs last month, according to the Wall Street Journal. Unemployment would remain unchanged at 3.9 until that happened. The U.S. added 223,000 jobs in May, up at 164 in April and 135,000 in March. Unemployment rate edged down to 3.8% from the 3.9. Doing well. Then we see here in the state of Kansas. Kansas tax collections, $108 million more than anticipated. Why do you think that is? Other than the fact that we raise taxes. It's really shocking. When you raise taxes, then they get more revenue. Not sure if I'm not saying that's a good thing. Not sure that's a good thing actually at all. But the revenue, there's different ways to get revenue, isn't there? Between raising taxes or letting the economy grow. And we're seeing a little bit of both right now. The economy is growing-ish. We could see the economy grow a lot more if we hadn't raised taxes, because you can see it happening at the national level. The GDP is going up. The unemployment's going down. People are going back to work. Great things are happening. It's really a great time to be around and actually to enjoy. It's almost like the comfort level of what many felt like in the 1950s when the economy was doing well and they were just going to work and they felt really comfortable. They felt really happy and they could actually enjoy. It's almost getting back to that. It's almost like the 80s after the 70s where we were devastated. Thanks again, Jimmy Carter and the progressives on that front. Then Ronald Reagan came in, slashed the taxes, slashed the regulations, and the economy boomed back up. It's crazy how that works, right? I know that the progressives are trying to give Barack Obama credit, and Barack Obama tried to give himself credit in his latest book, as he said that he set the stage for Donald Trump. Yeah, you did set the stage. You destroyed things so terribly that we had to come in and fix everything, and we had to do it in a drastic measure like someone like Donald Trump. Just saying. But they say, we did it. We set the stage for him. The economy is now set for him to actually enjoy. Let me tell you something. There is a big difference, which is why we always get into this debate and argument of, the first year, it's all the president previous, which usually it is, yes. Usually it is. Here's the big difference. When you implement bailouts, when you implement tax hikes, when you implement stimulus, quote unquote, when you implement these types of bubbles and you inject them into the system. Look, we're supposed to have a free market, privatized capitalist system. We don't necessarily have that anymore. Because when the government gets involved altogether, they screw up a lot of things. And when they inject these bubbles into the economy, look, think of the economy as like a brake fluid in a car. And the brake hose. And sometimes you have to bleed the hose, right, to make sure there's no bubbles in there, because the bubbles could do a lot of damage to your vehicle, right? And every once in a while, you have to bleed those just to make sure there's no bubbles and when you change out the fluids and everything. That's what you have to do. That's just normal. And think of the economy that way. When the government injects a stimulus, when they print more money, when they try to affect different interest rates, when they create the quantitative easing, when they create a stimulus plan, when they increase the government spending that they don't have the money to do. Remember, over the last couple of months, we've had record tax receipts at the federal level, record tax receipts, more money than they've ever received in the entire history of the nation in one single month, and yet we still outspent them close to $500 million. Crazy amounts of money. Crazy amounts of money. We still cannot get our spending under control. When you do that, you're creating the air bubbles in the system. And it takes time for them to actually get into the system. When you have that air bubble in your brake fluid in your car, you don't know whether it's going to happen in a day or in a month from now. You don't know when that air bubble is going to actually cause the damage. The same thing happens with the economy. When you inject those things, when you actually do those investments, quote unquote, at the federal level, you don't know when that bubble is going to burst. And usually economic activity, when a president or an executive order or when Congress signs a budget or signs a bill or they do the omnibus bill or something like that, it takes time for it to show its ugly face. You don't know when that bubble is actually going to come in and actually start ruining certain pieces of machinery. They don't know when it's actually going to come in and it's going to burst and it's going to cause a whole bunch of havoc. You don't know when that's going to happen. But when you do a tax cut, when you get the government out, when you deregulate, when you downsize, when you focus more of the GDP onto the private sector, that happens immediately. There's a big difference there between the long-term effect and the short-term that creates long-term effect, by the way, as well. But when you deregulate, when you cut taxes, when you do things like that, that actually has an immediate response. Why? Because the businesses and the individuals in the private sector says, hey, I got a tax cut. I'm going to have more money. Now I can reinvest in my business. Now I can actually put some money away for the savings. Now I can pay off some debt. And man, oh man, look at this. I'm actually getting ahead. I can spend more. I can invest in actually getting a new mortgage. I can invest in getting a new car. I can do these things that I've been wanting to do. It's an immediate response. Because then when people have more money, then they spend more money. which increases sales tax rates, or the sales tax revenue going into the government, local level and federal levels. They end up buying more things, which means the retailers are doing well, which means the businesses are doing well. And when they get more revenue from that side because the consumers have more money, and then they have more money because the government cut their taxes as a business as well, guess what? They can buy more product, they can expand their business, they can hire more employees, and everybody's happy altogether, and that happens immediately. So let's look at the difference here. Because we've had this debate from many individuals before saying, oh, it's Donald Trump hasn't had an effect on this yet. Oh, it's crazy. Barack Obama, that's still his economy. So when the unemployment rate started dropping the day that Donald Trump got into office, the month when the tax receipts started to go up at the federal level, the month that Donald Trump got into office, when people began to expand their businesses, the month that Donald Trump got into office, oh, that's not him. That's Barack Obama. No. It wasn't. Barack Obama had 8 years to try and fix this. I'll give him maybe the first year or two of George W. Bush and his economy because George W. Bush didn't really do any of that. So, okay, I'll give Barack Obama a grace period of 2 to 3 years. Let's say 5 years that he had the economy. And look at where it was. And then all of a sudden, just the mentioning of Donald Trump saying, I'm getting elected, I'm going to get sworn in, we're going to do major tax cuts, we're going to let the economy grow, we're going to get people back to work. We're going to bring jobs back from overseas. We're going to reinvest in our infrastructure. We're going to reinvest in our construction. We're going to reinvest in different projects here at the private level. We're going to invest in America. We're going to make America number one again. And guess what happened? Just by talking about that, the stock market began to soar. Just by talking about that, businesses began to increase their employees and began to increase their investments and began to increase their expansions. Just by talking about it. Then it actually happened. And look at where we're at. Can you really give Barack Obama credit for that in any way, shape, or form? No, not one bit. So when we see the tax collections in Kansas, $108 million up from projections, number one, that's because of tax increases, because they'd rather force you to do it rather than let it grow naturally. Because that's the way our government actually is. And for whatever reason, a red Republican state doesn't make any sense to me, but that's the way it works sometimes, I guess. And then you see, oh, yeah, 18-year low for unemployment rates. Oh, yeah, the GDP is higher than it's ever been. Oh, yeah, stock market's higher than it's ever been. It's crazy. I got a story this morning as well from Fortune.com from a listener. It says, hey, I work at Costco. Guess what? Latest story. 130,000 Costco employees are poised to get a raise starting June 11th. In a Thursday call last week with investors, they announced the starting wage for Costco employees to go up $1 to $14 or $14.50 an hour. Almost the fight for 15, almost $15 an hour for starter employees at Costco. Warehouse employees would see hourly raises of 25 to 50 cents an hour. The raises are expected to cost the wholesale retail company $110 to $120 million before taxes. But according to the Seattle Times, they credited being able to give the tax raises based on the tax breaks that they got last year from the tax bill, which lowered corporate tax rates and provided a windfall for large corporations. Shocker. Reinvesting in their employees. Giving people more raises. You can do it in two different ways. You can fight for it as a forcefulness and a squeezing and a tightening of the girdle at the federal level through government regulation, like what Bernie Sanders wants to do. The fight for 15, we need $15 an hour minimum wage. And you can do that by forcing companies to do that without giving them incentives to do so. Or you can say, here's your money back. Let's grow the economy, baby. Do your thing. So what do? Great. I'm going to reinvest in my business, going to expand it, going to hire more people. And oh, by the way, we're going to take care of the people that actually make this company operate. It's funny how that works. When you actually focus on taking care of the employees that actually make the company run, all the little cogs in the system, and they actually are happy and they're content and they want to stay and they actually want to show up to work and actually do their job as hard and much as they possibly can, then things run a little smoother, don't they? I worked at a couple of different banks in between my little legs from radio, and their training that they have, they invest in thousands and thousands of dollars into their employees to train them for bank standards, to train them to make sure they know what they're doing, how to handle the money, make sure that you have a background check, make sure you're not going to fraud the bank out of any money, make sure that you can actually take care of and understand interest rates to do refinances for mortgages and yada, yada, yada. They invest a lot of money into you as an employee. Do you think that businesses would want to do that if they have to turn around and rehire somebody else 6 months later, 3 months later? Isn't that kind of a waste of money? No. You want to take care of your employees. You take care of them so that way they stick around, so you don't have to spend the money on retraining new people, and they're happy so they're productive, which means that you get more out of them and you get more benefit as the owner of a business. It's crazy how that works. I know that the light bulb hasn't quite clicked on for many progressives that don't understand that concept, but it's there. The economy is doing better because of cutting taxes. And yet the progressives, what are they campaigning on? Oh, it was terrible. And if we had a chance, no, we would not have voted on that again. If we had a choice, no, we would not have allowed that to go through. If we had the majority, which we need the majority for the blue wave that's coming in this midterm election, if that happens, then we can stop this. We can repeal it. We can raise your taxes again. We can punish the companies for what they're trying to do, and then we can actually get rid of Donald Trump. That's their agenda. That is the campaign talking points. Does that make any sense to you? Not to me. 48 minutes past the hour. Your thoughts on this when we come back. This is The Voice of Reason.
The Voice of Reason with Andy Hoosier on the Big Talker, KQAM.
7 minutes to the top of the hour. Welcome back into The Voice of Reason. Wrapping up the program today on a Monday. Hopefully it's helped you wake up just a little bit better than your cup of coffee, shot of espresso, energy drink, whatever else you do in the morning to get you up and rolling. Welcome in 316-721-8255. I just don't get it. 18-year unemployment rate low. What is it? How many years for the African-American population, women? Yeah. Donald Trump, that guy. Hates people, right? Let's go to the phones. 316-721-8255. Good morning. What's your name?
Hi, Andy. This is Helen.
Helen, how are you?
I'm doing just great.
Good.
I hope you're doing great.
Living the dream. That's the way we roll.
Well, I have two things to talk about. I like that Kris Kobach, or was it Kris Kobach that had the gun in his...
Yep.
Well, you know, I personally like for my politicians to, walk the walk and talk. When they talk the talk, they also walk the walk.
Sure.
They don't just say, "Oh, I'm pro Second Amendment," but then
kind of move on and forget all about it, sort of thing, right?
Yeah. Then I run and hide in a corner somewhere.
Sure.
But also, this stuff that's going on, with us politically. The Lord foretold us of all these things. And, the scripturally, the things that happened to the children of Israel are an example for us in these last days, as it says in 1 Corinthians chapter 10, verse 11. Now, all these things happened to them, the children of Israel in the Bible, for examples or an example, and they are written for our admonition, our warning, upon whom the ends of the world are come. We are at the end of this second world age, and so they're a warning. So what happened to them? The children of Israel, multiple things happened to them, but one of the things that happened to them is that the Egyptians grew their government and oppressed the people, and they make more bricks with less straw. They tried to build their infrastructure and stuff and build their government and everything, their power over the people, and they oppress the people. That's basically what government has been doing.
Well, that's the way government's... Well, yeah, government's been doing that since the beginning of time, which is why we've always seen these cycles, kind of a refresh cycle over and over and over. Even back during the Egyptian times, the Pharaoh, the king, the emperor, whatever, and then they end up collapsing. And then you see the Romans that really came up, and they started off with the Republic, and then they forgot about the importance of holding their government accountable with the representation. They go to an emperor. And it ends up falling. I mean, we've always seen these cycles to where the more relaxed we get in a society is that we always begin leaning towards one person or a group of people to end up doing the decisions for us and doing these things for us, which increases the size of government because we stop looking towards the natural law of personal responsibility, whether it's God's law to be able to hold yourself to a standard, whether it's the natural law of you being able to have the rights to do what you will as an individual, and we start relying on the government to protect those things from us. And we always end up collapsing because of it. It's a never-ending cycle of humankind.
Yes, and as it says in Article 1, Section 8, the Congress shall have power to lay and collect taxes, duties, imposts, and excises, to pay debts, and provide for the common defense and general welfare of the United States, but all duties, imposts, and excises shall be uniform throughout the United States. They keep wanting to take more from those who have worked hard for it and earned it. And give it to those who haven't earned it.
You're right. And they use that tricky little quote of the general welfare, which, Helen, I appreciate. I mean, you're right. They use the general welfare, which is what they use to say that they can do all of this stuff. That one little 2 words, general welfare, means that they take it literally as in welfare, that they get to take care of everybody. They get to have social spending. They get to do the socialist utopia. They get to do universal health care. Because we always ask them, constitutionally, how do you have universal health care? Government's not supposed to be involved in that. Well, under the general welfare clause. What? Excuse me? General welfare? General welfare means the general well-being of the nation. And the nation does not do healthily and is not in a healthy state when everybody's dependent on government programs. That's just reality. So sorry. But they use that because, well, they see what they want to see into it. They're usually up on something and they see the smoke and, dude, I see the general welfare of the people. If everybody just lived happy and like totally on government programs and stuff, we'd all be awesome. This is your show. As always, we love having you here. This is your show. It's time to speak up, speak out, speak loud, speak proud, speak the truth, and always speak some reason. This is The Voice of Reason. Have a great Monday, everybody.